Enter the Dragon Horde. Hello, folks. Welcome to Cover, where I, your resident dragon, hoarder of TTRPG books, reads every single TTRPG book I own, at least 5,000, cover to cover, and talk to you about them. Today, we're talking about Pistolheart Volume 1 by Carlos Cisco. But before we dive further into that, introductions. Hey folks, before we get into that, let me introduce myself. My name is VJ Harris. My pronouns are he, him, they, them, and something funny. I am a full-time tabletop role-playing designer and professional GM. You might recognize my name from things such as MCDM Productions Arcadia, Flea Mortals, and An Elf and an Orc Had a Little Baby Volumes 1 through 4. Before we get going, I've got something to show you. Do you like tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons or Daggerheart? Have you tried getting a game going or looking for one and haven't been able to find one? Well, you're in luck. My name is VJ Harris. I am a professional, full-time game master and tabletop role-playing designer, and I want to run games for you. Quick disclaimer, as a member of a variety of marginalized identities, I want to make it abundantly clear that my tables are for everyone that can respect each other's intrinsic identities. No bigotry will be allowed at my tables. Now, here is a too long, don't want to watch all of that image that breaks down everything else I'm about to say here shortly. Right now, I have 4 games open on Tuesday, every other Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Regardless of your level of experience with TTRPGs, you are welcome. I love teaching new players. The Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday games are Daggerheart, and the Friday game is Dungeons & Dragons 5.5, aka 2024. All of the games are $30 per session, but the first 4 sessions are 50% off for all new players, and if you bring a friend, you get an additional session at 50% off. On Tuesdays from 5:30 CST to 8:30 CST, I run The Doom Awakens, a Colossus of the Drylands Daggerheart campaign frame. A prosperous region of gunslingers and outlaws has fallen into terror as colossal creatures awaken from beneath the earth. It's a mixture of Shadow of the Colossus, Red Dead Redemption, Deadlands, and On the Shoulders of Colossus. The themes of the game are breaking cycles, the burden of heroism, faith versus doubt, greed, and ordinary people accomplishing the extraordinary. Every other Wednesday from 5:30 CST to 8:30 CST, I run Rise and Fight, a tweaked Curse of Strahd campaign. You spent your whole lives in Barovia under the oppressive thumb of Count Strahd Manzarovich. It's time for you, the people, to take a stand. On Thursdays from 5:15 CST to 7:45 or 8:15 CST, I run Rise of the Machines, a motherboard Daggerheart campaign frame. In a world where magic takes the form of the technology left behind by a long-fallen civilization, a new threat rises as a malicious virus spreads through the machines that wander the wastes. It's a mixture of Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, Mortal Engines, Mad Max Fury Road, the Final Fantasy series, Full Metal Alchemist, and Slug Blasters. The themes of the game are artificial intelligence, identity and personhood, innovation and technology versus humanity. On Fridays from 5:30 CST to 8:30 CST, I run Phandelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk. The area around Phandalin is under attack. Roving bands of goblins and bandits harangue travelers as something darker pulls the strings. This adventure blends classic fantasy with cosmic horror. Now, because I'm a professional TTRPG designer and have made things for Daggerheart and Dungeons & Dragons, which is an understatement at this point for me, when you play with me, you have a wide array of options from third-party supplements that not only I made, but also from other publishers, and me creating something customized just for you. So if you're interested, just check out the link in my bio to find all of these games. Hope to see you in one of them. Peace out. All right, back to the video. I can't actually keep up that accent for very long, but I gave you a taste. Hope you enjoyed. Now, the Gunslingers. Contained within are 5 subclasses for the Guardian, Ranger, Rogue, Seraph, and Warrior, each embodying a different Western archetype. The Breacher Guardian is a shotgun-toting, dynamite-loosing hooligan who sings when surrounded by large groups of foes. The Longbarrel Ranger snipes their foes from afar and assists their allies with focused precision. The Outlaw Rogue is always on the move, disappearing in a cloud of gunsmoke after they strike. The Marshal Seraph meets out-frontier justice and lends their abilities to their posse. Finally, the warrior who answers the call of the Pistolero finds no equal in a quick draw and is known for their impossible shots. While they all embody different Western archetypes, the mastery feature for each subclass grants a unique boon while mounted, a hat tip to the narrative importance of a mount to the genre. Okay, so we're going to go out of order with talking about this because I've got actual mechanical experience with the Seraph Marshal. I'm running a Colossus of the Drylands campaign, and one of my players has chosen that subclass. Before diving into talking about this, let's get a quick refresher on the Seraph in general. Seraphs are divine fighters and healers imbued with sacred purpose. A wide array of deities exist within the realms, and thus numerous kinds of seraphs are appointed by these gods. Their ethos traditionally aligns with domain or goals of their god, such as defending the weak, exacting vengeance, protecting a land or artifact, or upholding a particular faith. Some seraphs ally themselves with an army or locale, much to the satisfaction of their rulers, but other crusaders fight in opposition to the follies of the mortal realm. It is better to be a seraph's ally than their enemy, as they are terrifying foes to those who defy their purpose. Their spellcasting trait is strength, and their domains are splendor and valor. Now, back to the Marshal. The Marshal Seraph meets out frontier justice and lends their abilities to their posse, and the abilities perfectly align with that description. In the Foundation features, there's Deputized Posse. Once per long rest, you can spend a hope to place 3 tokens on this card. You or another PC can spend a token instead of spending a hope to help an ally. Next up, Frontier Justice. Spend a hope and make a spellcast roll against a target within close range. On a success, they are temporarily restrained by a spectral lasso. You can mark a stress to pull a lasso target into melee range. Now, I'm going to show you a live example of what that looks like on screen, but first, let's set the scene. Araz Moremi, better known as Shepherd. Araz took their last name from the forgotten god, Moremi, the goddess of freedom, an ironic name for what would happen to them once their home was ransacked. Grabbed by a gang and kept amongst them for their healing abilities, it wasn't until another roving gang of vandals defeated them, Araz was freed. This new gang called themselves the Pack, and Araz was welcomed with open arms, gaining the name Shepherd. There was 15 years of peace among the Pack, even if they themselves were a terror unto the Drylands, but eventually Araz would leave due to their new transactions with Baron Rider Destry, not a title, that's his actual name, whose own dealings were too much for their conscience. Settling down in Wyland's Gulch, the one town the Pack hadn't terrorized, they'd eventually marry Rain, a local singer, and have a child together named Calliope. But there's no peace to be had for a bandit, even when they are so desperately looking for it. The Pack came for them, for their family, and once they were done, the only one left alive was Araz. Bloodied and broken, their undead nature finally being put to use, they crawled from where they were left hanging in search of their vengeance. What does it look like as you approach the Broken Ridge before walking in?
I think I would have cased the place first, just in case, because I would have tried to look around inside of the building. I don't know how dark it is, but would have kind of walked around the alleys portion.
You walk around peering inside. You feel very confident nobody's noticed you. And while you don't see Baron, you do see the rest of the Pack.
I think something that Shepard would have clocked, honestly, is their horses.
You are intimately aware of the horses, but also the saddles would give it away as well.
I'm going to take a horse. I'm going to take my lasso, and I'm going to stand outside this window right here, and I'm going to throw it at Kali here. I'm going to spend a hope to grab her.
Corso screams, and Kali's like, Corso! And immediately pull her out, and then Wolf is going to jump through the window.
Seeing Wolf come barreling at the window, manages to get off in time, but hits the rear end of the horse to get him going, and lets them run in whatever direction with Corso still attached.
You slap the horse's ass. Ola takes off into the street with Corso screaming. The moment Kitch, that's the player, did this, I was like, hot fucking damn. It was so damn cool, and from a mechanical standpoint, it's perfectly balanced and led to a really great storytelling mechanism and combat. I am now down 1 adversary. Onto the specialization features. Long Arm of the Law creates a new condition called Wanted, which makes it harder for the GM to spotlight a creature. The second feature, Wanted Poster, directly ties to the Long Arm of the Law, making it easier to mark a creature with the Wanted condition. Finally, the Mastery features. Dead or Alive, which can only be used against a wanted creature, makes attacking them even easier by bolstering what you or an ally rolls while attacking them. Finally, Tireless Pursuit, which is specifically when you're mounted, allows you to alter success and a failure in your favor. Okay, overall, mechanical thoughts. Now, I am only comparing this to the subclasses for the Seraph, not any other subclasses or classes, right? While I like all these features and think they go well together, the fact that 3 of the abilities, Long Arm of the Law, Wanted Poster, and Dead or Alive, are all directly tied does kind of go against the design aspect of the existing subclasses that I've seen, right? For Divine Wielder, their Spirit Weapon Foundation feature, which gets bolstered by Sacred Resonance, the Mastery feature, and the Winged Sentinel Wings of Light Foundation feature gets bolstered by Power of the Gods. Also, you need to take into account that the last Mastery feature does require them being mounted, and you'll want to play into that to make things fun for your player. Also, while the official subclasses only have 4 features, the Marshal has 6. Now, that isn't me saying that the Marshal is bad, just something you'll want to keep in mind if you're letting players take this. For me personally, whenever I add homebrew to my game, I tell the players I reserve the right to tweak it with their input, of course. Guardians are known for fighting with remarkable ferocity even against overwhelming odds, defending their cohort above all else. Woe betide those who harm the ally of a Guardian, as the Guardian will answer this injury in kind. It doesn't have a spellcasting trait, and its domains are Valor and Blade. The Breacher Guardian is a shotgun-toting, dynamite-tossing hooligan who sings when surrounded by large groups of foes. The foundation features are Boomstick and Door Kicker. Boomstick, mark a stress to choose a point within close range. Make an attack roll against all creatures in a very close area around the point. On a success, you deal d6 plus 4 physical damage using your proficiency. Door Kicker, no door can hold you. You have advantage on action rolls to break down obstacles. The specialization features are Hit Me and Explosive Hope. Hit Me. Spend a hope until the end of the scene or until you take severe damage. Creatures within melee range of you must mark a stress to target a creature other than you. Explosive Hope. Gain a hope when you damage 3 or more creatures with a single attack. The mastery features are Dragonfire Rounds and Steel Horse. Dragonfire Rounds. When you succeed on an attack with a firearm, you can spend 2 hope to deal the maximum possible result on your damage roll. Your firearm becomes unusable until you use a downtime move to repair it. Steel Horse. While mounted, you gain a +2 bonus to damage thresholds. You can charge without making a strength roll. Okay, mechanical notes. It's very much in line with the number of features the Guardian gets. The Stalwart gets 6 and the Vengeance gets 5, but there's 2 things I want to talk about that I'm a little iffy on. First, Hit Me. So you get your specialization feature at tier 3, which means at tier 3, the Breacher has a stronger kind of version of a level 4 Valor ability. Goad them on. Let's compare the two. Hit Me. Spend a hope. Until the end of the scene or until you take severe damage, creatures within melee range of you must mark a stress to target a creature other than you. Goad them on. Describe how you taunt a target within close range, then make a presence roll against them. On a success, the target must mark a stress, and the next time the GM spotlights them, they must target you with an attack, which they make with disadvantage. So, not a direct one-to-one, but it feels like those 2 abilities sit within the same space and can A, have Hit Me seem overpowered in comparison to the ability, and B, make the player who takes Goad Me on but is not a Breacher feel some type of way. And then there's the repair part. I know that Daggerheart is part narrative on the GM's part and part mechanics, and checking in with Carlos, the intention is to mostly leave it to the GM player to figure it out narratively, but as it states in the text, use a downtime move. This is just for me personally. I would have liked the mention of the narrative part of it. I know a GM can decide that, but sometimes for me, my brain won't take that into consideration when I read things that are saying make it a downtime move, which is very mechanical. And a quick suggestion on how to handle that mechanically. So you could simply treat it as a repair armor move, and using that move completely fixes it. You could give the gun a number of slots, and after using the ability, the player rolls a d4 to determine how many slots are used to represent damage, and then roll the d4 for the downtime move. Or you can treat it as a project that just needs to be done during a long rest with a knowledge roll. Now, onto the Ranger Longbarrel. I have a player also playing this, but she hasn't used a feature yet, so I have no hands-on thoughts about it yet. Once again, let's talk about the actual class first. Rangers are highly skilled hunters who, despite their martial abilities, rarely lend their skills to an army. Through mastery of the body and a deep understanding of the wilderness, Rangers become sly tacticians, pursuing their quarry with cunning and patience. Many Rangers track and fight alongside an animal companion with whom they forged a powerful spiritual bond. By honing their skills in the wild, Rangers become expert trackers, as likely to ensnare their foes in a trap as they are to assail them head-on. Its spellcasting trait is agility, and it uses the bone and sage domain. The Longbarrel Ranger snipes their foes from afar and assists their allies with focused precision. Foundation features, Tag 'em and Eagle Eye. Tag 'em. You can mark a stress when you deal damage to a target at close range or farther to make it temporarily vulnerable. Eagle Eye. You have a bonus equal to your proficiency on action rolls to see things at great distances. The specialization feature is Spotter. Spotter. When you help an ally who is at close range or farther, your advantage die becomes a d8. The mastery features are Reaper Round and Pale Rider. Reaper Round, when you deal severe damage, you can spend a hope to make the target mark a hit point, mark a stress, and become temporarily vulnerable. Pale Rider. While mounted, you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls. You can use spurs without making an agility roll. Second to last, the Rogue Outlaw. You know the drill. Rogues are scoundrels, often in both attitude and practice. Broadly known as liars and thieves, the best among this class move through the world anonymously. Utilizing their sharp wits and blades, rogues trick their foes through social manipulation as easily as breaking locks, climbing through windows, or dealing underhanded blows. These masters of magical craft and manipulate shadow and movement, adding an array of useful and deadly tools to their repertoire. Rogues frequently establish guilds to meet future accomplices, hire out jobs, and hone secret skills, proving that there's honor among thieves for those who know where to look. Its domains are Midnight and Grace, and the spellcasting trait is Finesse. The Outlaw Rogue is always on the move, disappearing in a cloud of gunsmoke after they strike. First up with the Foundation features, Gunsmoke and On the Lam. Gunsmoke. When you succeed on an attack roll with a firearm, you can spend a hope to become cloaked in Gunsmoke. While cloaked, you remain unseen if you are stationary when an adversary moves to where they would normally see you. When you move into or within an adversary's line of sight or make an attack, you are no longer cloaked. On the lam, once per short rest, when you make a downtime move, you can roll 1d6 instead of 1d4. The two specialization features are Run and Gun and Secret Weapon. Run and Gun. When you succeed on an agility roll to move to far range, you can mark a stress to deal d4 plus 6 physical damage using your proficiency to a target in range where you end your movement. Secret Weapon. When you finish a long rest, choose one primary weapon to make secret. A secret weapon can't be discovered in a search or removed from your person. You can swap to a secret weapon without paying the stress cost. Once equipped, the weapon loses secret. Finally, the mastery features. Black Hat's Reckoning and Hard to Catch. Black Hat's Reckoning. When you risk it all and roll with hope, you can either treat the risk it all roll as if it were a critical success. You and each PC within close range clear a number of HP and stress equal to your hope roll, divided equally among each PC. Hard to Catch. While mounted, you have a +1 bonus to evasion. You can spend a hope instead of marking a stress to use Serpentine. So just two things for this. One, the number of abilities is outside of the range for the Rogue. This guy gets 6, the Night Walker gets 5, and the Syndicate gets 3. Again, I'm not saying being outside the range of stuff makes it overpowered or anything, especially because the Night Walker and the Syndicate do get some really cool stuff. Just wanted to point that out as something to consider when allowing it into your game. The second thing is, if you're allowing this, you've got to make sure mounted combat, once again, is relevant in your game so the features don't go to waste, and that's true about a lot of these things. Last but not least, Warrior Call of the Pistolero. Becoming a warrior requires years, often a lifetime of training and dedication to the mastery of weapons and violence. While many who seek to fight hone only their strength, warriors understand the importance of an agile body and mind, making them some of the most sought-after fighters across the realms. Frequently, warriors find employment within an army, a band of mercenaries, or even a royal guard, but their potential is wasted in any position where they cannot continue to improve and expand their skills. Warriors are known to have a favored weapon. To come between them and their blade would be a grievous mistake. It has no spellcasting trait and uses the blade and bone domain. Finally, the warrior who answers the call of the Pistolero finds no equal in a quick draw and is known for their impossible shots. Foundation features, Quick Draw and Fan the Hammer. Quick Draw, when you have a pistol or revolver equipped, you can mark a stress to use Attack of Opportunity on a target within range that moves out of melee range of another PC. Fan the Hammer, when you have a pistol or revolver equipped, you can spend a hope to target an additional adversary in range with the same attack roll. Specialization feature, Trick Shot. Once per scene, you can ignore a line of sight when making an attack roll with a pistol or revolver. Additionally, in a moment of calm, you can spend a hope to gain advantage on an action roll that uses a pistol or revolver to affect the scene, such as severing a rope or knocking an item out of someone's hands. That would be cool. I'm kind of picturing the whole, like, pew, you fire the gun and it hits the gun out of somebody's hand. That is so, like, quintessential to a lot of Wild West movies and TV shows. Mastery features, Blackjack Bullets and Saddlebags. Blackjack Bullet. Before you make an attack roll with a pistol or revolver, you can spend a hope to add your finesse to the duality die that rolls lower, changing the result. If the result is 21, treat the attack as a critical success. Saddlebag. Once per rest, while mounted, you can swap a card into your loadout without paying the recall cost. While mounted, you can swap weapons with no stress cost. Standard disclaimer, it's once again outside of the range of features to the warrior. This one gets 5, while the Call of the Brave gets 4, and the Call of the Slayer gets 3. And again, this is not to say it's unbalanced based on just giving that info, but outside of that, I literally have no thoughts and no notes. Like, this is a really good class. I'm excited about it. But before we move on to a different part of this product, I just want to reiterate, you need to have mounted combat mean something in your games if you're going to allow this supplement. You have to make sure all of the player's features mean something and is fun to actually use. Now, there's a number of features that mention being mounted, and as we know, there aren't mount rules for general use for Daggerheart, but have no fear, the Pistolheart has you covered. While westerns are riddled with gunslinging outlaws, corrupt sheriffs, and vigilant marshals out for justice, the thing that binds them all together is their horses. As iconic to the genre as a pistol or a lasso, rarely does a dusty old western tale not feature a horse. But this is Daggerheart. There ain't no story sheriff here, and whatever strange critter a PC feels fit to sling a saddle over is between them and their GM. Mounts can't be targeted by adversaries. Mounts can suffer consequences when PCs roll with fear. Mounted creatures can catch up to someone on foot or outrun them. A mounted rider can take a short rest while on the move. PCs can summon their mounts if it makes sense by giving the GM a fear. While talking about the classes, I mentioned some abilities you're probably not familiar with. Charge, Serpentine, Spurs. With Charge, you barrel through adversaries in your path based on your strength roll. Serpentine allows you to get a bonus to your evasion when you're targeted, and finally, Spurs has you making an agility roll to move into very far range. I was a little confused by Spurs and how it was different than the standard moving into very far range, but then I realized it's meant to be an ability to tie into the Longbarrel Rogue feature even if it's identical to the base Daggerheart stuff. Just an easier way to say this. There's 9 new guns: Snub-Nose Revolver, Warbringer Revolver, Arc Pistol, Scoped Rifle, Bolt Action Rifle, Sawed Off, Slug Gun, Lever-Loaded Rifle, and Pocket Pistol. Each of them have a special ability. They're all really solid, but my favorite is Sawed Off's Widespread. When you make an attack roll, choose a target within range and make an attack roll against all creatures within melee range of your target. Now, if you add these weapons to your game, Carlos has a quick tip for you. Keep in mind how having a party of PCs with primarily ranged attacks will change your encounter design and adversary choices. Hey, this last section of this review is for DMs. If you're a player and you think there's a chance this might be ran for you, tune out now. Jump to the outro part if you want to stick around. And the final part of this Pistolheart Volume 1 is set pieces. Of course, you have to have a couple of environments with this kind of setting. We've got Rifle Cannon Run and Mounted Train Chase. Both are Tier 2, but Rifle Cannon Run is an environment, while Mounted Train Chase is an event. Rifle Cannon Run, a deep and narrow cannon filled with high vantage points perfect for snipers. There's 2 passive features: Cannon Run and Get to Cover, 2 actions, Shoot 'em Dead and Reposition, and 1 reaction, Bullet Storm. Cannon Run. The PCs have to help each other get through the canyon. Countdown equal to the number of PCs plus 1. The die ticks down every time the PCs succeed on an action roll to get their party through the canyon. Get to Cover. Making an action removes the PCs from cover. If they succeed with Hope, everyone is covered. If they succeed with Fear, only some are covered. If they fail with Hope, 1 ally is covered, and if they fail, well, I think you can guess what happens. Shoot 'em Dead. Spend a Fear to hit each PC that doesn't have cover. Reposition. The gunners reposition themselves, causing the PCs to lose cover. Bullet Storm. When the GM takes the spotlight, PCs that aren't in cover must mark a stress. This is super solid. I love each of these abilities, and the suggested adversaries, outlaws, minor fire elemental, merchant, swarm of rats are pretty solid and are good to give ideas for other things that can happen in the canon. I can imagine before the action actually starts, a traveling caravan showing up, and then the fight happens and you can either help or leave the merchants. Now, Mountain Train Chase. Outlaws have stolen a train full of gold. Mount up and board it before they hit the tunnel. There's 2 passives, Getaway Train and Mounted Pursuit, and 2 actions, Rooftop Gunners and Train Robbers. Getaway Train. When this is introduced, start the countdown from 10, and each time the GM gets spotlighted, the counter ticks down. Mounted Pursuit. Now, this countdown also starts with 10, but it follows the player's action. Each time the players succeed on an action roll, it goes down. If the countdown is above 3, players are at very far range for the purposes of abilities, and when it's below 3, they're within close to far range. Rooftop Gunners. There's gunners firing at the players! You get 4 tokens to use and can spend a number of fear equal to the tokens to have them attack. They force an agility reaction roll to determine if the characters are hit. Instead of catching up to the train, the players can attack the gunners. Train Robbers. There's 6 options that you either roll for or spend a fear to choose from. A mounted machine gun deals a bunch of damage to the PCs. The Outlaws give the engine a boost, forcing the players to try and catch up. The Outlaws detach the caboose, and the players need to try and avoid it or be knocked back. A gunner joins the others, giving you, an additional token to hit people with. A bandit leaps onto a player's horse trying to dismount them, and the bandits start throwing Molotov cocktails. Now, I haven't used any environments in my Daggerheart games yet, but I've read through all of them. These 2 are 100% great, and I think I like them better than anything I've read in the core book. I'm currently running a Colossus of the Drylands campaign, and will at least be gutting these guys for an environment, if not outright using them. The train one doesn't really work for my campaign, given the realities of the world building we did, but I think some things could still be really cool. All in all, this is a solid product you must get your hands on, especially if you're running a Colossus of the Drylands or any Wild West style campaign. Well, folks, stay tuned for part 2, where I talk about the Pistolheart Volume 2, which hasn't been released yet, but I got as a special preview, and has 4 times the number of pages as Volume 1, from 13 pages to 47, which is why it's not included in this video. But that's all for now, folks. See you next time. Peace out.